Hey everybody, it's me, Chris Goneman, author of the Basic Fantasy Role-Playing Game and the Iron Falcon Role-Playing Game. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I write adventures. I see this question come up a lot online, not questions directed at me, but just a question in general. People talk about how difficult it is to create dungeons, to think up ideas and put them together, finish them. So I'm going to give a little rundown on what I'm working on right now. I am in the process of building not just one adventure, but a series of adventures, including an introductory adventure, a city environment for use with my Iron Falcon game. I'll admit the idea came to me kind of in a flash. I'm not going to give a lot about it away because I'm hoping to keep most of it under wraps for a little while until I can get it published. But anyway, I started out with an open word processor document the way I most of the time do. I sketched out the general sections, titled each adventure as I thought of it, slipped in, a few pieces here and there, placeholders for things that I know I'm going to want. I have a lot of NPCs created, for me anyway, and a lot more to go. And I may end up giving a little advice on better ways to handle NPCs in an adventure, along with how I write adventures. The most important thing to do when you're writing an adventure, especially if you set out to write a big one and it becomes a daunting process, remember the old joke, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer, of course, is one bite at a time. Don't worry if you can't churn out an entire dungeon level in an evening. Don't worry if you're a little writer blocked and just can't think of the thing, whatever part you think you need to work on next. You can't think of something for it. Don't let that worry you. Do something. If you only do one room or write one random encounter or whatever it is you do, and that's all you get done, well, that's something you don't have to do now. It's done. You should reread everything from time to time. Read through your whole adventure. Make sure that everything still fits. Maybe reorganize as you go along and you realize that you should present the information in some other organization, some other fashion. You will figure that out as you go along. If you find in a reread that there's something that you don't think really works, don't just cut it out. If you think you need to eliminate it, open another word processor document, cut and paste it, put it over in that other document. Don't throw it away. It's work you've put in. It may not work where you put it, but you may be able to use it later. Even if it's nothing more than a hint or suggestion, and if you never use that, what did it hurt you to save it? But if you ever use it, that is that much work you don't have to do on that project. Don't let the size of the project be daunting. Have a plan for where you want to end up, but don't try to hold yourself to a specific path to get there. If you're blocked on the first adventure in a series or the first room in a dungeon, go someplace else. If you've got a dungeon with 100 rooms and you can't get the first one figured out, there's 99 other places you can look for something to do. As you go along, you may figure out how to fill those pieces in that you haven't figured out. Whatever it is that you need to do, don't let yourself get stuck on one thing. The project I'm working on, I let myself get stuck. Let myself get stuck on the city map of all things. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted it to look like, but I'm not as good at drawing city maps as I am at drawing dungeon maps. I mean, nothing's easier than drawing a dungeon map. So I got stuck on that, and I finally sat down and started writing NPC encounters, city monster encounters. I don't want to give too much away, but this the meat of it, what goes into it. And I sketched out the map finally on the computer. There are a lot of pieces of it that aren't finished yet, but my main central town area where I want to have my main NPCs and my player characters hang out most of the time when they're not delving in a dungeon. bar, actually 2 different hangouts for my PCs, appropriate to different situations. Local businesses that they may want to frequent for whatever reasons. I mean, adventurers always need to buy stuff. And some sketching. I haven't actually written it down yet, but I've got some ideas for residential areas. This is an environment where the player characters will probably live for a while. And rather than paying for rooms at the inn continuously, they may find it to their advantage to rent more permanent or even buy more permanent arrangements. And that's fine. That's how this is going to work out, hopefully. I have high hopes for this campaign. Really looking forward to getting into some serious play testing. But as I say, there are 2 distinct dungeon adventures right now that are part of this work. And I have 5 or 6 rooms. Well, I have all of 1 level done because I have play tested it. The first level of the introductory dungeon. But there's 2 more levels there. I've got 2 or 3 rooms done. There are 3 levels in the second dungeon, and I have done almost nothing there except wandering monster tables. I do know the general mix of monsters that I want to be there, but I haven't actually worked out where they all are yet. The point I'm trying to make with all this rambling, don't let yourself get stuck. When you're working on an adventure, do what you have in mind. Let your mind wander over the whole scenario, over the whole environment. If you think of a thought, if you think of an idea, write it down. If you know where it should go or have some clue where it should go in your dungeon, put it in your dungeon or put it in your city plan or wherever it needs to go. But don't let yourself get stuck. The secret to finishing is knowing that as long as you keep taking 1 step at a time forward, eventually you'll get there. I guess that's all for today. So maybe more later. I'll talk a little bit about the NPC thing in another video. Thanks all.